Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So in today's discussion, we are going to look at a question under Managerial Economics BEC 332. So in this discussion, we are going to focus on the question that has been highlighted for us here. So we are told to say that FM produces two items, Q1 and Q2. The demand functions are given below. So these are the demand functions that we have. So this is simply P1 and this is simply P2, and this is the total costs function, where P1 and P2 are simply the prices. So we are required to find the profit function, where you know that the profit function in layman's language is basically total revenue minus what? Total cost. Where you know that total revenue are not given, and we know that total revenue is basically price times what? Times quantity. So what is the price? Price in this particular case is that of P1 and P2. So we are going first to find the total revenue 1 and the total revenue 2 according to the data that we have been given. So we are going to multiply this 100 to Q1 by Q. Why? Because we are going to substitute in the function given here. So this times that is basically 100 Q1 minus this times that is basically 2Q squared 1. Remember, because they are coming from one general equation. Then we go to total revenue number 2. Total revenue number 2, it is where we multiply 125 by Q as well. It will give us 125Q minus, then we have 2Q squared, 125Q minus 3Q2 squared, like this. So this is the function that we have. So let me just highlight again on this function. Remember, we are multiplying this function here. So 125 by Q minus 3Q squared 2. Remember, these are from here. We are going to multiply this general function that we have on price by what? By Q. So this is what we have particularly here. So we first multiplied the price function by Q for us to be able to get the total revenue function for the good on number 1, and we also multiplied this function on number 2 by Q for us to be able to get the function of good 2. Then from here, remember, since these two items were being produced by one firm, so for us to be able to get the profit function, we need to add this and this total revenue function minus the cost function. So we are going to add them. 100 Q1 minus 2Q squared 1 plus, we are going to add the two goods because we want to find the profit. So 125 2 minus 3 squared 2. So this is the joint total revenue for the two goods, both 1 and what? Both 1 and 2. So having found the joint total revenue for both 1 and 2, we are now going to subtract this. Well, we are going to remove the total cost from this particular equation that we have here. So it will be 100 Q1 minus 2Q squared 1 plus 125 2 minus 3Q squared 2. Then immediately we do this, we are now going to say minus the total costs function. So we are going to say 12Q1 plus 11Q2 plus 4Q1 Q2. Immediately we have this, we are now going to distribute the negative to what is in the total costs function. So we are going to rewrite the equation that we have as 100 Q1 minus 2Q1 squared plus 125 Q squared minus 3 squared 2. minus 12q1 minus 11q2 minus 4q1 q2. Then immediately we do this, we are now going to now group like terms. So we have this and that. So 100 minus 12 basically gives us 88q1. Then we have 125 and 11. When we subtract, they give us 114q2 minus 4q1 q2 minus, we are coming here, minus 2q squared 1, and lastly we have negative 3q squared 2. Then immediately we do this. So this is the joint total, this is the joint profit function that we have calculated. So this is simply number 1. Then immediately we have our number 1 there. We can now come up with what is called we can now come up with the values of price and quantity when profit is maximized. So when profit is maximized, looking at this equation, this is simply a complex equation where we have two unknown variables, both q1 and q2. So we need to apply what is called partial derivative. So partial derivative, we have one rule. If we are going to differentiate q1, we hold to q2 constant. If we are differentiating q2, you hold q1 constant. So in this particular case, we are going to differentiate q1 holding q2 constant. So the derivative of this is 88. The derivative of this here is 0 because q1 is not there. So we are going to hold this constant. So if you hold q2 constant, meaning it is more like a 0 here. Why? Because the variable q1 is not here. So here the variable q1 is here, so you know that the derivative of q1 is simply 1. So we are only going to remain with 4q squared. And this other guy we have here, here when we differentiate negative 2q squared, it will give us negative 4q1. So then this other one, the derivative of this one will be 0. Why? Because there is no presence of q1. Remember, we said when we are differentiating q1, we hold q2 constant, and if q1 is not present here on the equation you are differentiating, meaning this whole equation here becomes what? Becomes 0. Okay, so we go to differentiating q2 holding q1 constant. So q2, who can guess what the value of 88q1 is? It is basically what? 0. Why? Because q2 is not present. Then when we differentiate this, we get the value to be 114. And when we differentiate this, we get the value to be negative what? 4q1. Because when you differentiate q squared, q2, the value is 1, and 1 times 4 is 4. Remember, q1 is held constant. And the derivative of this 2q1 here will automatically become what? A 0. And the derivative of this guy is 6q2. So for us to be able to maximize profit, we maximize profit where the derivative of profit 1, where it is equal to the derivative of profit 2 is equal to what? 0, meaning you equate these functions equal to 0. So if you equate these functions equal to 0, which means that you will have you will have 4q, when you rearrange the equation, 4q2 minus 4q1 is equal to what? Is equal to 88. When you rearrange this in mathematical order, you will have this. Remember, you are going to put a 0 here, and these others will go to the other side, and 88 will remain. Also here you put a 0, and you will have 6q2 plus, also here it's a plus, sorry, we didn't see that. Remember, we said it is all these are crossing to the other side. When negative 4q2 crosses, it becomes a positive, which is here, and when negative 4q1 crosses, it becomes a positive as well, which is here. Then secondly, we have this guy, when it crosses over the equal sign, it becomes positive, and the other one, when it crosses over the equal sign, it becomes positive. So having done what we have done, remember we can now apply what is called the simultaneous equations, where we know that these two numbers that are on Q1 are simply of the same. They are of the same coefficient. So if they are of the same coefficient, we can just go directly and subtract. Remember, we have what is called same signs subtract and different signs add. So we're going to subtract 4Q2 minus 6Q2. We get negative 2Q2, and this here will give us a 0, and 88 minus 114, we are getting the value to be negative 26. So for us to be able to find 2Q2, we are going to cancel 2 both sides. We're going to cancel 2 both sides. So negative and negative cancels out. So Q2 is basically equal to 13. So the value of Q2 is equal to 13. And for us to be able to find Q1, we just get the value of Q2. We replace it in one of the equations which we have, either equation 1 or equation 2, for us to be able to find the value of Q1. So for us now to be able to find the value of Q1, we just go directly in replacing the value of Q2 in Q1. So it will be 4Q2 plus 4Q1 equal to 88. Then immediately you want to find the value of Q1. So like we said, we just substitute where there is Q2 with 13, and we put Q1 here is equal to 88. So we multiply, you can just get your calculator. We multiply 4 times 13, we get the value to be 52, plus 4Q1. From here we group like terms. So we say 4Q1 is equal to 88 minus 52. So 88 minus 52, we get the value to be 36. So the value is 36. So if you want the value of Q1, you divide both sides by what? By 4. So we find that the value of Q1 is basically equal to 9. Immediately you do that, you now find the price. Remember, the quantity of Q1 and Q2 has been found, and we know that the price of product 1 is basically equal to 100 minus 2Q1, where Q1 has been known to be 9. So it will be 100 minus 18, and you know that by mathematics 100 minus 18 is basically 82. So that is the value that we get when we do our mathematics. Then for us to find the value of good number 2, we just say 125 minus 125 minus 3, okay, minus 3Q2, where Q2 is known to be 13. So it will be 125 minus 3 by 13. So by 13 here, so 3 by 13, we're getting the value to be 39. So it will be 125 minus 39, and when we say 125 minus 39, we get the value to be 86. So this is how you calculate the profit function that we did on number 1, and secondly, we have calculated the price and quantity when profit is maximized. Your host, Gordon Zulu.